Amnesty International is urging states, public institutions and companies to end the political economy that it says enables Israel's occupation, apartheid and the devastating war in Gaza, naming sectors and firms it believes are implicated and pressing for suspensions, divestments and bans tied to international law. The call comes as the UN General Assembly and the ICJ's advisory opinion continue to frame the legal debate, while many governments and companies dispute Amnesty's characterization and remedies, with US Secretary General Agnès Callamard. Agnès, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Now, what specifically must governments stop doing next week and under which legal obligations?
Well, they must first and foremost ban with immediate effect the direct supply of all weapons, surveillance equipment, anything that is implicated in the genocide of Gaza. They must ban the trade and investment relations that contribute to or are directly linked to the genocide, but they also must ban trade and investment that are part and parcel of the occupation, the unlawful occupation of Israel. And yes, it is grounded in international law. It is grounded in the Genocide Convention that demands the prevention of genocide. It is grounded in occupation law that demands the non-recognition of unlawful occupation. It is grounded in the laws governing how states should respond to apartheid, all of which have been recognized by the International Court of Justice. So there is absolutely no doubt that states must move from words into action. I'm not necessarily mentioning South Africa because South Africa have actually acted already, at least in the ICJ case. But the majority of states, even those that have denounced Israel's unlawful occupation or genocide, those states have done nothing to act. They have done nothing to stop the addiction to profit, which in this case is feeding a genocide and an unlawful occupation and an apartheid. That must stop.
Well, Agnès, it almost seems like the debate or the push or pull factor is economic versus humanitarian. The issues that you describe speak to organizations, companies who are enabling, if you will, for want of a better description, in getting some economic benefit and not so much a desire to support the humanitarian calls that Amnesty International and other organizations are calling for?
Well, look, under international law, companies have also obligations. They have, at a minimum, an obligation of due diligence. What does that mean? It means that they must ensure that whatever they do not contribute, do not aid, do not assist, do not support international crimes committed by the state to whom they are selling. So at the moment, there are a large number of companies, some of which are named by Amnesty, many of which are named by the United Nations in a database that will be produced in a month's time. Others have been named by Francesca Albanese, the special rapporteur. Those companies are failing in their international obligation to act with due diligence. They are not ensuring that whatever they are selling, whatever they are procuring to the Israeli is not contributing to the commission of international crimes. Therefore, they are guilty and they could indeed, their CEOs could face liability, including criminal liability.
Well, if we go back to when this war started, if you'll call it that, it's been almost 3 years, and many countries have not supported the various calls, either the calls that you are making or what has come out of the ICJ. What obligation is there outside of it being on paper for these companies to divest or to stop supporting these companies?
Look, the obligations under international law is there, so there is absolutely no doubt. The problem is the willpower on the part of member states to implement their own obligations. Yes, over the last 24 months, we have had a number of governments that have supported Israel, beginning with the very powerful United States, but also governments like Germany. Increasingly, a number of governments, in fact, the majority of governments have said enough is enough. This is international crimes. This must stop. And that is reflected in the adoption of resolution at the General Assemblies regarding the genocide or the crimes, however you want to call them, which have been adopted with a huge majority. So clearly, the majority of governments around the world are recognizing that Israel is committing international crimes. They are recognizing that there is an unlawful occupation, and they have called for a ceasefire in Gaza. The problem is that those governments have not acted according to their words. What does that mean? Let me take the example of occupation. Under international law, states have an obligation of non-recognition of an unlawful occupation. It means non-recognition of something like the settlements. In fact, as we know, there is an increasing large number of companies from around the world that are operating in the settlement with the acquiescence of their government. And that is in violation of international law. But the problem is the political will. We need government to actually take action. They must ban, they must investigate, they must divest. That is the only way this, nightmare that is broadcasted in front of our eyes every day can end. It's not just words. Words is not going to save the lives of Palestinians in Gaza. Words is not going to stop the annexation of the West Bank. Actions will, and that includes economic action.
That's where we're going to leave that conversation. Agnès Callamard, appreciate your time. Secretary General of Amnesty International, speaking about action that is required to stop the continued onslaught in Gaza.